live. 9/17/2022. World still stands, although allegedly somebody. What is going on, Gremlins? Just started off. We must have made the Matrix mad with that last live stream. We had fakeologist Simon Shack and a little dose of Lynn Ertel as well, representing perspectives on 9/11, and we spent some time admiring the artistry, the performances of the artists involved. Quite a production, and I walked away from today's conversation realizing a couple of things. One, you don't know enough to assert that it happened as reported. That's all secondhand, it's make-believe. Second, informed disbelief does require that you do your own diligence, your own research, but not just the rabbit trails they feed you, the Judy Woods direct energy weapons, and every other conspiracy theory that presupposes that something was a terror attack or a false flag, but something happened that was random or something that was the result of a devastating, destructive attack, whether inside job or outside job. We're looking at this thing from an outside perspective where you can't even classify this as an attack. It wasn't a false flag attack nor a terror attack. It was a psychological warfare operation, a PR stunt. The mass media created a contemporary myth. It was a reset button, but what they did was they basically triggered every person who consumes media into occupying the same mental space, and they gave us a new frame of reference. We entered the age of terrorism, but more importantly, we were synchronized to the default world state church, the mass media, which has supplanted religion in every way. But it was used to inject a lot of narratives, political footballs, to create a new mythology, a new paradigm, and they succeeded. And the people who take the pro stance, the pro whatever media advocates say to do, or the anti stance, the ones who believe they're going against the grain, both of them are basically accounted for. They're following the mainstream script and the alt script. So the truther movement was never even close to the truth. They were misled from the very beginning. And they've been chasing red herrings. They've been attributing more reality to the event than it warrants. And they've totally misunderstood the role of media until more recently. And Simon Shack's work pretty much lifted the veil on this from early on. He wasn't duped. He even called out the military grade smog, the concealment fog they use. But we went over some aspects of it, and what's interesting is how much of it was conveyed through eyewitnesses. And it was like watching tryouts for a play, like drama students doing monologues. These actors were rather entertaining, but none of them were convincing. And their accounts were contradictory, non-compelling, cartoonish. And we watched this ceremony where the official footage from various news agencies was put into some archive, and it was like watching the holy meta scriptures being put into the temple, or it was essentially like a religious artifact. But it's pretty clear that when we're talking about these events, we're really just talking about a pre-produced event. There's nothing random. There were no eyewitnesses that weren't reading scripts. There's just a lot of liars and a lot of secondhand information. And we've had to root out many liars that are just, random people on the internet who want to attach themselves to this. And that's not a new phenomenon. They call it the 9/11 sign. It's kind of like virtue signaling or something. But many people will say, I know somebody who knows someone, or my best friend's dog walker's great uncle. And they have these accounts that are 6 degrees of separation from the event itself. And that shouldn't be good enough. We can reject that. But a lot of people get away with it because many are afraid to challenge people who are claiming victim status. Like, I'm a indirect victim, secondhand victim. You can't challenge my account. It's like, well, cry for me, crisis actor. I don't really care. I have to get to the truth. And I'm not going to be bullied or emotionally manipulated by media advocates who don't even know that their head is in the box. So if you had that If you listened to that conversation earlier, I had to delete it, obviously, because the channel's monetized. I don't want to compromise it, but it is going to be available on all of the other platforms besides this one. All right, we are joined by Austin108, who has a wrench now. Observing Reality, Elephant Tusk, Let's Go, Green Smoke, Josh Lebsock, Frank Murr, Lando Rock, Quays, Ted Stryker, Mazel, Dwayne Arbith also has a wrench now. If you comment, I will get back and I will hand you the moderator wrench. Ted Stryker says, new pic from the ISS showing LaPorte, Texas natural gas fire. Doesn't look like Google Maps. Deprogrammed Truth has made it. Well, speaking of that, I saw a really good video here. Hey, how you doing, Buzz Dean? Listening from work. I found this clip. This is fantastic. This individual is showing you, just juxtaposing from the same 24-hour live ISS feed. He shows you how at night you can see streetlights, highways, buildings, cities. The earth is lit like a Christmas tree. At night, it glows like a Christmas tree. But during the day, you cannot see buildings or roads or anything that would indicate that there's any kind of advanced civilization down there. So let me play this clip.
People will just call me crazy while they're sitting back sipping their soy lattes with a shot of fluoride in it. And in case you haven't noticed by now,
there's nothing wrong with soy or fluoride. You know, the poison is in the dosage. But so behind him, you're seeing the image of the ball Earth as provided by the space station, allegedly in space. I look at this and I'm thinking cheesy graphics. What does CGI stand for? Cheesy graphic imagery. That you could deduce that from NASA's presentation here. I mean, watch. It looks like claymation to me.
any roads, anything, right? And you don't see any buildings, any roads, anything, right? And they're going to say that's too high, so how could you possibly see it? So then we look at this, and we're seeing lights. What lights are we seeing? What lights are strong enough that we're seeing them from space, but we can't see any buildings? This is Ireland from space. No buildings, no roads, no nothing. This is Ireland from space at night. You can see lights.
Now, I have some other examples. You can look at the Earth from space as seen from the Starman, and the dark side of the Earth is dark. Like the night side is just pitch black. The light side that's lit by the sun is as bright as you would think. You can see all the details. And yet, from the ISS, the Earth is covered in light bulbs. So why don't we see the lights on the dark side of the Earth from anything else other than the ISS? Does the light only extend 300 miles out into space? There is no good explanation. This is a major inconsistency. And what this individual also finds, because he's doing the work, he's watching NASA videos, and I should probably leave the ISS live stream on in the background just to catch stuff like this. It's hard to believe that adults are fooled by this. They look at this and they don't think garbage cartoon. Their jaws drop and they think, wow, that's so real. They're just so easy. They're gullible, selectively gullible. But he finds this cloud that's rectangular, and it's about the width of South America.
Concert, that must be it. And for those of you who stuck around through this, while I was searching through the NASA footage to find this, I found this cool little thing. What do you think's happening here? It's supposed to be from NASA's live feed, and for those of you who say it's not, here you go.
Live now, 24/7 overview camera, Earth from the space station. So this is not a video compression artifact. It's not some error somebody made in studio. This is what it looks like from space. An astronaut could presumably put their face in front of the lens and you'd see this in the background. That is a giant rectangular cloud formation.
ISS. All we're asking is that when you see stuff like this, think logically, think independently. And of course, don't forget to watch the Phone Booth podcast. Peace.
All right. I will check out his podcast. He seems to know what's going on. What a joke. Okay, let's move on. Roxy W says audio is a bit low tonight. Okay, let me see if I can fix that really quick. We've been having repeated audio issues, and things are like that. That's just the world of live streaming. Someone else in the chat says they finished reading Autohoaxology 101 and they're passing it on. Yeah, feel free to, although I don't expect people who aren't already up to their neck in fake news deconstruction to understand or care about it. It's out of their purview, unless they find it entertaining. But a lot of people are really bound by consensus opinion, and that's acceptable. I don't try to draw people out of their comfort zone. For me, that's really something that has to be done at the level of the individual. And what we're doing here is more akin to a philosophical discussion than political. We're not talking about politics here in the sense that people who are into politics talk about it. We're talking about the fact, and this is something we talk about all the time, the fact that what we think of as news media is really the result of a worldview monopoly, and they exert total control. Okay, let's crank it back up to 100. I should be 11% louder. There's something in my computer. There's some little gremlin in here, and it's chewing up on the wires and stuff at night. All right, let's see here. You bought it on Amazon. Yes, I get a pretty decent royalty on Amazon. And the purpose of Autohoaxology 101 is just, it's the first step to an entire curriculum that could conceivably walk somebody out. But the main point I make is that we don't all see the world the same way. We should understand this but at a basic level, our worldviews differ based on our political leanings, religious, and other presuppositions, but there's a dominant paradigm that we can all agree on. Yeah, look, don't hold back. If the audio is low, I will turn it louder. Sometimes people, we suspect people of trolling me, and I'm going to trust people until I'm effectively trolled once. So now I just let the trolls know. But from now on, and I'll put a note on the board here to double check the audio levels before I go live every single time. I don't know why that is. It's like a bike with a slow leak in the tire, and every time you go, you have to add some air. It's ridiculous. But we'll deal with it. The other thing we're talking about tonight, let's see, paging all Hezbollah crisis actors. So a bunch of pagers blew up in the pockets of terrorists and basically blew their testicles off, according to the Drudge Report. I looked at the pictures and video. It all looks fake. Just at first glance, fake. But you hear something so terrible, and you're like, why would I want to see that? And you wouldn't look, and you'll just take it secondhand. And that's why they give you atrocity propaganda. Well, look at the New York Times. You can look at this terrorist, and his crotch has been blown off by a pager that had a bomb put in it. Why would you even want to look at that? I wouldn't. However, because we are apprised of what news media is, and we know that they are using aggressive atrocity propaganda overload, this is like brute force mind hacking, I feel like I should do the work, and I'll look so you don't have to. And I saw the same stuff. For example, the emergency room full of patients, and the one person who's recording it has a flip phone, pixelated, and he's moving so fast you can't even see anything. Just like Vegas, just like Nice, just like every other PSYOP, you have one anonymous cameraman who runs through so fast that you can't tell it's a simulation unless you know what you're looking at. And it was a mass casualty simulation. It was hyped up. At first, it sounded like at first, it was pretty cool. I was like, wow, 4,000 pagers blew up simultaneously, like a decentralized 9/11. And then it kind of toned down to, wait, okay, 9 people blew up, or 9 were killed. Then it was 11. Then it was back to 9. Now it's 11 were killed and 4,000 injured. We're still waiting for the full report. But apparently, according to the stories anyway, and we're just talking about the stories. I'll give you some more details here. This is from the Washington Post. Lebanon pagers exploding. Thousands of people were injured. And guess what time? Just put it in the chat. What time did all the pagers explode? At what time did those 11 people leave the world behind? What's 11 times 72? No, I don't really believe the whole thing about you. That wouldn't even be considered a martyr's death anyway, so I don't think they get any reward for that. 792. Yeah, it was 3:30. The answer was 3:30. At 3:30 p.m., the electronic pagers. Why are they still using pagers? It should be on iPhone 16. Used by the militant group Hezbollah simultaneously exploded at 3:30. The group and Lebanese officials said, maybe this is an unprecedented attack by Israel. So this is kind of the plot twist I think we've been waiting for. Happened at 3:30, and what did the governor of Ohio say about 3:30? About 33? I believe he said something about this. Observing reality says 8:46. Very good guess. Okay, let's see here. We're looking at a couple of news reports about the exploding pagers. Thousands injured in Lebanon as pagers used by Hezbollah explode. So at first impression, it seemed like a really big deal. And as the story evolved, it became more and more exaggeration and hype. Okay, here we go. Thousands of people were injured across Lebanon on Tuesday when pagers used by the militant group Hezbollah simultaneously exploded at 3:30. Each one who received a new pager throw it away. A voice message was circulated to their members. Fakeable for sure. Extraordinary claim. And the evidence that I have seen isn't all that impressive. And they can fake anything these days, not just in terms of CGI, augmented virtual reality, but the hyper-realistic training dolls, they bleed, they breathe, they can moan. This one from Engadget, shared by P. Trippa, this CPR dummy of the future can, yes, it can leak blood. I don't want to read it verbatim, but yes, that's very realistic. Fascinating. We were talking about this fake-looking globe behind this person, and somebody had said, Susan Goss, I suspect all of this is soft disclosure. I've been hearing this since 2017. Oh, the reason it's so fake is they're trying to let us know. It's soft disclosure. The good guys are dropping hints. The white hats are helping us. I've heard this for a long time, and it feels like it's an effort to get us to stop looking. Like it's no longer something that we have to do, but they're just slowly letting it out. Like, oh, they're waking people up. It's a mantra. It's an InfoWars mantra. People are waking up. People are waking up. Which doesn't really mean anything. It means the opposite. It means the dreamers are now waking into a nightmare. But my response to her suggesting that the obvious space fakery is soft disclosure that they want you to know is, I said I disagree 100%. This fools 99% of the population 100% of the time. The 1% who can see through are censored, marginalized, and used as an excuse to further censor opinions. I see no indication of a mass awakening. This is bad hopium. And you have to refuse the bad hopium and block hopium dealers. It's all there to diffuse any critical thinking. Replace it with, well, hope, saviors here on earth, and dead presidents apparently are saviors now. Dead Kennedys. Dirk Zing said, YouTube hid your live stream from me. I had to manually type you in. Fascinating. All right, let's see. Angst G says, non-political YouTube channel Nick Johnson did a good on-the-ground video discussing the issues in Springfield. Oh, good. Well, a couple of things. That was an intentional event. Springfield, the dead cat thing, it was all designed to create the perception in the minds of the public that mind viruses need to be quarantined immediately. Mind viruses meaning some hateful idea incites the mob, and now people are in danger. Well, there were 33 bomb hoaxes called in Springfield, Ohio. Springfield was terrorized because of a meme that got out. A racist, anti-immigrant meme. And then Donald Trump's at the top of it. Look who's involved. Donald Trump, X, and Musk. So you put that together and it all makes sense. This idea that they are sabotaging free speech by having the parody of extremism, the Poe, Elon Musk, call him Pope Elon, Poe Elon, because he's got the same politics as Grimes, I guarantee it. He's a communist, lowercase c, like he's a leftist. I don't believe, he believes in climate change, and he thinks that Bitcoin has too big a carbon footprint. He's part of the space program. If you didn't know, the space program is a stalking horse to advance environmentalism. So if you see through Greta, but you don't see through Elon Musk, you're still in that realm, that realm controlled by Al Gorliani. You're still in the environmentalist green worldview, which has its own model attached to it. The very premise of climate change, rests on you accepting the idea that they have a point. And I don't concede that. I think ultimately the agenda behind environmentalism is to make you feel guilty about breathing, about owning stuff, about having fun. It's to promote a form of asceticism, but with science's stamp of approval. Messianic Charlatan says water bottles and flip phones topped off by a single shoe and somebody saying it was just like a movie, crisis actor starting kit. Yeah, if I was going to have a PSYOP starter kit, you would have lanyards, water bottles, a single shoe, obviously, and a few scripted cue cards. Like, it was just like a movie. How many times have we heard that? I can't breathe. If you say I can't, have any of you seen the second Beetlejuice? Or the first one, you say it 3 times, he shows up. If you say I can't breathe 3 times, Benjamin Crump shows up. So be careful. If you don't know who he is, I call him Forrest Crump. He's the Forrest Gump of attorneys. Every time there's a historically significant PSYOP, he's there. Just like there's this coroner, and I think I know his name. I think it's this coroner who did George Floyd, and he did JFK, and he did like JonBenet Ramsey. Like he's like the coroner of the stars. But let me see if I can get his name. The medical examiner. I think his name was, yeah, here it is. I believe I found it. But he's one of these characters who's involved in many PSYOPs. Just like, Andrew, is it Dr. Andrew Baker? I'll have to look. It's a little bit of a side track. I don't want to get into this right now, but we have found some interesting characters on the world stage. Like, there's one guy who makes all the crosses for all the mass shootings in schools. You know how they have the crosses they put in front of the schools? And you're like, how did they have them ready already? How did they have them prepared? It's like the blood's not even dry yet, and you already have crosses outside. Well, it's because you have some guy already making them in advance. I think they send them to the schools. Like, when your school's doing hyper-realistic school shooting drills, they already have the crosses in one of the sheds, and they're just going to bring them out when it's time. They're just props. Angst G says, lots of angry residents in Springfield. There appears to be some legit problems. Are you there? Would be my, because I noticed that they're spreading this by, I live 30 minutes from Springfield. I have friends in Springfield. And it seems like so many people have said it. I'm like, Springfield must be 6 million people. But I think it's 60,000. How many people are there? I mean, it's not a big place. And a lot of people are claiming stuff. And I did see a group of 12 Proud Boys, and I saw some flyers for the Klan. But I don't know if it was real. 154,000, so it's not that small. It's about the size of the place that I am, I suppose. Elephant Tusk says, Tim, did you catch Dancing with the Stars season 33? I didn't, but Dancing with the Stars frequently has predictive programming messaging. Joined by Thirst for Truth. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you, J Diggs. Michael Baden. So Michael Baden is the corner of the stars. Here he is. Looks like a made-for-TV. This is Central Casting. Board-certified pathologist known for high-profile deaths. I want to see his list. We were talking about world stage names. Do you all remember Dr. Carver? Okay, here we go. He did John F. Kennedy, O.J. Simpson, Phil Spector, Michael Brown, Epstein. Okay, he did Epstein. So when they Epstein P. Diddy, they're going to call this guy up, George Floyd. Now, for those of you who are P. Diddy fans for some reason, they're not really going to Epstein him because they didn't even Epstein. That's all a hoax. U.S. attorney handling would-be Trump assassinations case is a Haitian immigrant. Nice little plot twist. Now, we were talking about this the other day. The shooting had predictive programming. Trump going into the sand pit. He's on the golf course. And in the background, I noted a red flag. And red flag is a code here. It refers to gun control. And that's already been discussed in light of the 7/13 shooting. So I did a search because I was seeing a bunch of headlines on the matter. And yeah, there are a number of headlines about how there were red flags that were missed. Trump assassination attempt suspect raised red flag. Trump's shooting and the lack of red flag laws. The mass shooting agenda is to get bipartisan agreement on the need to regulate speech and guns because of the mentally ill. That's the overarching agenda that they're both going to unite upon, and we're just about there. The mentally ill are the ones who are going to catch disease X, the violence. So here we have it. The phrase red flags is consistently brought up. Suspected Georgia shooter, his mom's teacher said they saw red flags. So there's a lot going on. His mom and teacher said red flags. So red flags everywhere, including in the background when Trump is being shot at in trouble. And this came out on 9/11, 4 days before the second attempt. Dirk Zink said, I threw Oblong Musk from day one. All the people around... Oh, you saw through him from day one? People said he was a genius. In 5 minutes, I saw they were mocking people. And yet again, if you think Elon is smart, you are stupid. Well, he must be smart because he sounds so stupid. I don't mean to be mean, but his character does sometimes come off as, well, we know that he's a part of this thing, deep into the PSYOP entertainment complex. So if he sounds like he's got these gaffes, if he sounds awkward, it's contrived. Like, I don't think he's stupid. He might be intentionally sounding gaffy like George W. Bush, but it's all strategy. You know, he's too high up the totem pole, too high up the obelisk. He's part of the space papacy. You can't be that high up and be a fool. But what he's saying is word salad. What he's saying is nonsense when it comes to space travel, multiplanetary species, Neuralink, a lot of the stuff anyway. He's mostly a character, and the people who fall for the character, who think he's going to take them to Mars. And I used to hear people say things like, the reason why he's having a hard time expressing himself is because his mind works so much faster than ours, he has to slow it down to relate to us. And I saw these comments everywhere until he became kind of this alt-right edgelord, and then all of a sudden he lost half his fan base. And now they're constantly attacking everything he says, and there are many clamoring for the FBI to go after him since he said something about the absence of assassination attempts against the other side. The unmediated mind says, don't know if it's true or not, but displacing people en masse is a real thing. Like when they want to gentrify the hood and move the people out of the ghetto into nicer surrounding areas. Reality exists. Everything that you experience is there. You know, I'm not in the business of denying reality, but what we're denying is atrocity propaganda superimposed onto an already sick world. Like, I am the least person to deny anything at all. We have a pretty impressive murder rate here. I think last month it was like almost, I think it was in the 20s. One of the shootings was just a cyclist on this trail I go down. somebody unloaded on him. It didn't hit him, luckily, but yeah, it's like the movie world, though, and the real thing are definitely not the same. There's a great deal of exaggeration, and the claims that we're calling out as potentially fake are the extraordinary ones, like the 90-pound weakling kicking down a door and killing 50 people in 5 minutes and then taking his own life. And then immediately this political agenda rolls out. GoFundMe accounts go up, t-shirts for sale, marches. Then you have these crying rituals, candlelight ceremonies, people donating blood. You see blood, you see tears. It's like they make it real. You know, they're like, oh, look, theatrical blood, fake tears, crocodile tears. Then you get the public involved. They donate blood. For who? What victims? And they cry when they pass the candles around. So you do see this massive, like, loosh harvest with every single one of these human sacrifice rituals. Only the human sacrifices are the viewers at home. And I think you could consider it a form of sacrifice. Like, if you actually believe these things are real and you're triggered, you are essentially, in a way, giving some small amount of your energy to the thing. In a way, you're participating. It's kind of like you're part of the info war. My stance is informed non-believer. So let me know which atrocity I need to believe in, and then show me the evidence. Or special effect. And if you don't account for the existence of perception management, propaganda mixed with mass marketing used in every single form of media, and psychological operations with every single news event, if you don't even consider that in your worldview, you're in their box. Like, we do have something of a caste system. Like, you have the programmers and the programmed. And most of the programmers are about 90 to 95% programmed themselves. We have an advantage because when we step out of the programmed box, we're in this other area. We're not compartmentalized. There's nobody putting barriers over what we can figure out. Unmediated Mind says, I agree the Springfield thing is psyop-ish. Well, look how it spread and look who spread it. Even after, for example, there was a video of a lamb on a spit, and Jack Poe, was spreading this thing on his Twitter platform to millions of people, saying it was a dog, and it was Haitians cooking a dog. Well, the community notes pointed out that this was a sheep, and then he shared this one. He said it was cats and it was chickens. He doesn't care about the truth. This is the guy who went to Comet Pizza and started the whole Pizzagate psyop. If you remember, whatever happened to Pizzagate? How come nobody's talking about Pizzagate? It's suddenly safe to eat pizza. Donald Trump can deliver pizza to a fire department and nobody accuses him of child trafficking. It's because the short attention span of the QAnon group kind of got past that. They kind of forgot about it. They forgot about pizza. They forgot about JFK. They forgot about tunnel children. Nobody's talking about adrenochrome anymore. What's the next current thing? What is their current focus? It's like a cat in a laser pen. It's, it used to be a spotlight. Like, whatever the mass media spotlights, they're all going to focus on the current thing. Now the spotlight has been replaced by a laser pointer, and their attention span is just nothing. It's decimated. And it's not that people's attention spans are necessarily shorter, because people will sit there and they'll binge watch a series after series on Netflix. It's just that there's so much competition, it's that much easier to not care. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, the not caring part. It's better for your health not to care. I would say, and I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist, but blue pill is better for your mental health. The red pills will kill you. The red pills will give you some kind of psychosomatic condition. You'll die of chemtrail lung. Your 5G tower will mess with your head. And it's all psychosomatic. So stick with the blue pill if you're intent upon remaining in the box. Don't go with the black pill. That's a dark path. Dwayne Auberth says, does anybody know about the 1984 San Ysidro mass shooting psyops at McDonald's? The shooter was reacting to immigration. Interesting. Same script for decades. I'll have to look into that. Was the guy's name? Okay, I found it here. I think I recall looking at some of these ones, and this could be real. I'm not sure. Like, I don't automatically say it's fake. That's low information disbelief. I have to look into it first. Yeah, John Huberty had a mental health problem. I'll have to look into it because I think I saw some footage, but it looked like a horror movie more than a real crime scene. But I'm going to have to double check it. Is it unbelievable? Not necessarily. What's the agenda? I'll look into it. It's hard for me to think that McDonald's would allow a psyop like that to take place on their grounds. Bad for business. Walmart is complicit in a number of these things. I'll look into it though. So today's 9/17. We were talking about how Leave the World Behind was referring to 9/17/2024. And then we were talking about that Tom Cruise movie, Oblivion, where he's got a Elvis Presley head, a bobblehead on his dashboard. And then he goes down to this football field that's been nuked. And then a dog shows up. And it made me think of Fallout, which has a poster for a movie, A Boy and His Dog, about a post-nuke apocalypse society. And that movie, A Boy and His Dog, takes place in 2024. So Fallout, A Boy and His Dog, Fallout is released in 2024. It takes place far in the future. But it's kind of interesting here. Little bits of predictive programming. Roxy W. said, on Rents, I heard that JFK and Brother Robert hired Lee Harvey as a mole for the CIA. My best guess when it comes to Lee Harvey Oswald is that he's working at Riley's Coffee and he went to go work for NASA. But he didn't go to the fake space department. He went to the PSYOP department, the ground level PSYOPs. And if you look into this, you look into Lee Harvey Oswald, the story is he's working at Riley's Coffee and all of his coworkers are sought after following the assassination of JFK. They want to know, what was this guy like? And they find that all these people moved to go work at Boeing or NASA. And according to some correspondences between Oswald and his girlfriend, he told her he was going to work for NASA. So you put it all together. Who directed the JFK assassination? Who directed Apollo 11? Stanley Kubrick. So you put it together, Stanley Kubrick did both. It makes sense that he got recruited into the PSYOP entertainment complex in its early years. Okay, let's see here. Dwayne Aubirth says there's a documentary about it called 77 Minutes, released in 2016 at the start of the alt-right craze. Okay, now that's interesting because McDonald's and the Donald Trump thing, there might be something to it. JL has made some fascinating connections with the name McDonald's and the connection to Trump. Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, so many fascinating links here. I mean, it's all story. And we know what cemented it? 7/13. The connections between John Huberty, the Trump shooting, which was, John Hinckley, and the Trump shooting, which was Hinky, according to Rosie O'Donnell. The connections between these events, Robert De Niro, the Joker, it really does cement it all, that it's all scripted, even the president's. The president himself is in a Truman Show. It's safe to say the president is in a Truman Show, and they know it. They know they are protected by the things that, the barriers that prevent them from knowing too much to where they're actually dangerous. Fly Me to the Moon showed Nixon as being out of the loop when it came to the fake moon landing. Quay said blue pills would kill me from boredom. Well, they are boring. That's why they have red pills, because they know a certain segment of the population are not going to be entertained by this. So the blue pillar can be typified as their face is against the screen and they believe everything on it. And it's their primary frame of reference. The red pillar is not satisfied with what's on the blue, but they don't push away from the screen as skeptics would. They don't say, hey, this doesn't add up. Let me re-examine the entire construct. Instead, they go deeper into alternative media, effectively putting their head through the screen, going deeper into the matrix. But that's what happens if you're bored, if you're thinking too much, they will take you in deeper. It's a very effective trap. What you actually have to do is recognize the world view and how it's formed and how the worldview is monopolized. The space program is a massive part of this. The big picture, and then they work their way down. It's the lie world order, has a pyramidal structure. And the capstone is very small. There's a very small group of people fully in the know. We're going to talk about some of the meta scriptures here. Dirk Sink says, Tim, did you see A Boy and His Dog yet? You said you had finished the new Mad. I'm still watching the Mad Max. I didn't know it was 3 hours long. It's long. But I am going to take a look. Joined by Lickety Split, Garrett Summers, Thrustazar. Now, again, 917 is mentioned in Edge of Tomorrow, which was just promoted on Netflix. And Leave the World Behind has a reference. And everything in Netflix, everything in Leave the World Behind has a real world counterpart. So I'm looking at the exploding pagers as possibly some kind of a reference to the Leave the World Behind failure of electronic. I'm not sure yet. I'm not a doomsayer, but it looks like a plot twist, especially if it's blamed on Israel. Swirling Spices, 33,000 on strike from Boeing. And the CEO was given a $33 million severance. Again, 33 is just a hoax code. Boeing and Machinists Union resume talks after 33,000 workers go on strike. Surprised they didn't say 34,000 to avoid us. And then the other day, we talked about this already, but there was a 33-year-old cat that passed away named Rosie. The equivalent of 152. Rosie was not in Springfield, despite what Jack Posobiec would have you believe. This was natural causes. It was amazing to see how the right wing caught a mind virus. They caught it. They caught and they didn't let the evidence get in the way of their stories. They were like, yep, they're eating dogs and cats. And I'm like, well, the evidence says sheep and chickens. I'm like, well, they're eating geese. They're from Haiti and they're in Springfield. I'm like, well, this guy's not in Springfield. He's not Haitian. That's a goose. So you got that right. But you don't even know that it was harvested illegally. But it was all a rumor. We just watched a panic, a sort of a moral panic, a xenophobia panic spread through the political right wing and manifest in online outrage. Now, whether the people on the ground are organic or all just feds, I don't know. Wheezy says, sent a Ko-Fi message just about the Time cover and the cat's narrative. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, the Time magazine cover is something we've been talking about a bit. Not only did it come out on 9/11, I think the sand pit may relate to Beetlejuice. In Beetlejuice, you go through a door, and you end up on Saturn, one of Saturn's moons, and there's just these big sandworms. But the connection here with Beetlejuice is Beetlejuice has the green hair and the black and white stripes, and the green hair correlates to Joker. The Joker has been correlated with the shooter in a number of ways, as we were talking about yesterday. So this is just further scripting, but also it coming out on 9/11, very obvious. The red flag in the back, in conjunction with the red flag laws that he likely didn't enforce strongly enough, now affecting him. So this is 100% predictive programming following the copious predictive programming for the ear wound. But I'm going to open up my Ko-Fi messages. You can send me messages at the shop over there. And I'm pretty much checking those messages every day. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Okay, let's take a look. The Trump Time magazine cover. He's actually reversing out of the sand. Golf terms, the sand is called the bunker. Okay, that's interesting because, of course, bunker, fallout. Fallout is about people in bunkers. I told you before I'm a UPS driver. Okay. Looking over your shoulder to the left, it's called 9 o'clock. The so-called shooter was at the sixth hole, waiting for Trump, who was at the fifth. Secret Service goes one hole ahead for security reasons, so Trump was at the fifth. Looking over the shoulder, 9 plus hole 5 and 6. Oh, I see. 9, 5, and 6, 11. Across streets of hole 5 and 6 are Congress and Summit. Okay, this has all got to be included into our general assessment. Two other streets around Trump International Club are called Gun Club Road and Kirk Road. Okay, and... oh yeah, thanks for the update here. Car shows and donuts are called sideshows, popular in California as well. Awesome. Oh yeah, this is another one. A good point here. Before the Springfield thing, Vance was calling out childless cat ladies. Like this whole cat meme. Are we still in Leo right now? This cat meme has been... no, that ended in August. Just seems like it's been a lot of cat memes preceding this. Yeah, here we go. We have J.D. Vance bringing up this idea. Can't be a coincidence. Here we go. Member of the Maryland House delegates went viral after the DNC cut to her while Oprah Winfrey was discussing childless cat ladies. That's funny. Surely not a coincidence. We're still getting to the bottom of all of this. Okay, this is definitely this is concerted messaging. There are no coincidences on the world stage. It's safe to say. Okay, let's move on. Lickety Split says Lincoln gave an important speech in Springfield in 1857. Super racist and insane. But, you know, there's a lot of fascinating connections between the assassination of Lincoln and JFK. And if you recall earlier this year, there was a sniper. It was last year. There was that sniper in Copenhagen. And they talked about how after the shooting, because he's a sniper up on a balcony, and it was on the... I know it was on some kind of significant... what was it? Was it an equinox or a solstice? I'll see if I can find the article. But we were looking at the story about this sniper and how there were blood on these iconic steps, which they didn't show you, but they talked about the blood on the steps. And at the same time, there was some activists, anti-Israel activists, who had thrown blood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. On the same day, Biden had signed off on the removal of some Civil War memorial that had to do with unity. So there was all kinds of messaging that was connecting Lincoln. And we were talking about this in conjunction with this upcoming Trump head wound thing. So Lincoln, anything with Lincoln is kind of notable here. I'll see if I can find the name of that shooter. But the connection here is blood on the steps in front of Lincoln. Here it is. Lincoln steps vandalized, free Gaza graffiti. So while this was being vandalized, there was blood on the steps at this other shooting where there was a sniper. And so we were waiting for the sniper to emerge on the world stage. King Ravana says, Ohio is a cat meme. Well, there's a lot of instances here where it seems like they're throwing memes out there aggressively, force meming certain ideas. Like, what was up with that shooter? And his name was Couch. And Vance expressed some affinity for couches. And then the Mountain Dew thing. There was a lot of predictive programming. We were picking up messaging in Mountain Dew, in their labels and the titles of their flavors. And then J.D. Vance is out there promoting Mountain Dew, kind of indirectly. It gets to be like an echo chamber. There's a strong echo chamber effect. Like you're watching, I said this many times, if you don't want to watch the news, just watch Netflix. So let's say you turn off the news and you're watching Netflix. You turn on Rebel Ridge and you see an actor. He's playing the role. He's basically playing the role of a black man oppressed by racist police, ripped out of his car, thrown on the ground. So this is on Netflix. But if you were to be watching the news, you would see that happening to Tyreek Hill on his way to a football game. And these incidents happen side by side. They happen concurrently. The messaging is super consistent. New main order says, what about the Lincoln statue that melted this year? His head was pretty much falling off. Okay, here we go. The wax Lincoln that can't take the heat. Looks like, sorry, we got muted for a minute there. I got a clip here. This is the Lincoln Memorial melting.
We showed you this video of melting Abraham Lincoln over the weekend. The statue is an art installation by Sandy Williams IV, who has been making wax versions of historical monuments all along the East Coast for the past 4 years. Now, this model, based on the Lincoln Memorial, has been displayed on the lawn of Garrison Elementary School since February. But unfortunately, Lincoln couldn't take the heat and now looks like this. This is a live image.
Yeah, so this is the result of an unexpected heat wave that is climate change. And this ties into the bigger picture of the West. The West has to sink. The movie Don't Look Up, the comet about to hit the Earth, like the Titanic about to be hit by an iceberg. So the climate change thing is also tied in to Trump, the right, Western chauvinism. The idea that Lincoln would have, that the statue's head would be melting here, would be blamed on climate change is actually very consistent. And this is all part of a bigger body of messaging. And most of you are probably already aware, or at least you've heard about the numerous connections between the Lincoln assassination and the JFK assassination. And these aren't coincidences, and it's not a mere urban legend. You could more likely describe these strange coincidences as evidence of scripting. There's so many examples here. Kennedy shot in a car called Lincoln, made by Ford. Lincoln shot in the Ford Theater. And by the way, on the day that Trump was shot, the Captain America movie had a trailer come out, and Harrison Ford is the president, and he's shot at while he's in a theater. So you have another Ford Theater connection, but President Ford has a birthday of 7/13, the day Trump Harrison Ford is born on 7/13, the day Trump was shot. Just another couple of connections. It goes pretty deep. Many of these have been expounded on, debunked, but there's supposedly 200 coincidences between the lives and deaths of the two. 200 coincidences between the lives and assassinations of Lincoln and Kennedy. Well, as Ian Fleming said, one time is coincidence. Well, one time is happenstance. 2 times is coincidence. 3 times is enemy action. And in this case, there are so many coincidences that I think we could just rule it out as being anything other than historic fiction, prefabricated scenes superimposed into the historic narrative. I mean, they do write our history in advance. When have they not? If the power elite provide the worldview and they give you the backstory, then they already write your history. They control the past. They control the present by controlling your frame of reference, and they write the future, and they bend the news to suit a pre-existing agenda. That's why it was great to talk to the Simon Shack with September Clues about this, because we're looking at something that's bigger than Trutherville has been willing to accept. Angst G says Quantum of Conscious channel has a good video on the Lincoln Kennedy coincidences. Yeah, and I'd like to know his explanation, because these connections are there, but if you assume it's coincidental, then you're left with, well, what causes coincidences? Are we in a simulation? And that's where they want you to go. My contention is that simulation theory is here to derail people who might otherwise see through news bending and the formation of the false world view through controlled media. They don't want you to recognize that it's a model. You've got the model and the real thing. But if you don't know it's only a model, and if you mistake it for the real thing, then you will conclude that these coincidences are the result of a simulation, because you won't have any other explanation. It's because you're allowing bad evidence, or you're miscategorizing phenomenon as something that it's not. And I happen to still think that synchromysticism and the Mandela effect are there to distract and mislead. Revelation of the method, misleading. We're not looking at anything that's mystical. We're looking at the structure of mass mind control. I mean, how else do you keep supposedly 8 billion people on the same sheet? This is a religion that encompasses all other religions and is compatible with every other worldview, except for the one that says the world might not be a ball, and the one that says the TV lies. But that's a small minority at this time. Commenter says Trump will be attacked by environmentalists if he's elected. Well, the environmentalism is a huge part of this, because and I talked about Avatar 2 a number of times. James Cameron, Titanic. James Cameron, 9/11, Predictive Programming, Terminator 2. But his Avatar movies are essentially about the West versus Gaia and the need for the environmentalists to rise up. And following Avatar 2, there was this event in Atlanta. And Avatar 2, The Way of Water, has this Atlantean sort of society. So Atlanta, Georgia, you have Cop City. A huge area of forest is being chopped down for the police to have a training ground. Environmentalists who live there climb the trees, throw rocks at the cops, just like in the movie Avatar, and one of them gets killed. So then you have this environmentalist movement marching alongside BLM against the police. So they have been merging climate justice with social justice, like BLM and the Green Movement, for some time. And I saw this heat up a bit when you had those fires at the Twin Parks apartments in the Bronx, where they said that space heaters were necessary by the poor because they were poor as a result of this system that's built on inequality, but more specifically that the rich caused the climate change that causes them to be so cold they have to buy space heaters. And the space heaters were dangerous, substandard, and they caused a fire and killed people. So you had these 19 deaths in a 19-story building, and it was all blamed on climate change and on the rich. And this narrative here is the climate justice narrative. So 19 dead, 19 stories. I think it even happened on 1/19. Let me double check the date. Bronx fire, 19 dead. It was on 1/9. So January 9th, 19 dead, and it's a 19-story building. And it was caused by space heaters. And again, space heaters, they took to be after this event. And this was just full of all kinds of numbers, as you would expect. Even in fact, one of our reporters went there, and it happened to be fire truck number 42, which is kind of interesting. You had a lot of ceremony with the firemen around it. The whole thing looked fake. Benjamin Crump was there. But after this event, space heaters were described as symbols of inequity. That these were now, here it is. Deadly Bronx fire put space heaters on the map as symbols of inequity. So yes, a space heater is now a symbol of oppression. And so those 19 deaths can be blamed on, well, rich people. I wish we had more time, because this is all very interesting material here. This whole idea of the climate justice being fused with social justice, but it's all connected, and it has been for some time. You cannot separate these things. That's why it's kind of a joke that Elon Musk is somehow right-wing, or that his interests are aligned with people who are not on Team Greta, who don't buy into the green movement, because Musk is green. The space program is green. It's built on that premise. You cannot really separate those two. In fact, oftentimes now, though, I do see critics saying that Elon Musk and his rockets are putting holes in the atmosphere. Did you know that there's a hole in the sky now? Elon Musk's SpaceX punched a hole in the edge of the Earth's ionosphere. Elon Musk's rockets are blowing holes in the atmosphere. There's some more recent news about this. I've been finding a lot of these articles recently. Elon Musk tears a hole in the ionosphere again. Now, why are they bringing this up? Because we're in the age of space environmentalism. Nobody cares about the ocean anymore. I haven't heard anybody whining about the ocean. It's always about... You know why? Because if we take a few moments to look at the condition of the ocean, and this isn't CGI, this isn't fake. If you were to take a few moments and look at the ocean and distract yourself from space environmentalism, space junk, and holes in the ionosphere, you would realize that there's about 70 tons of PPE. There are islands of masks in the ocean. And whose fault is that? Not the right-wingers, not the polluting capitalists, not the people who are anti-green, but rather it's the greenies. It's the true believers in the World State Church. Now, tons of... I think it's 57 tons. Okay, 57 million pounds. 57 million pounds of PPE and COVID-related plastic waste are polluting the oceans. And that article is from 2021. So it's probably triple that. So thanks. You know, there's islands out there. Islands of pathological waste, thanks to all these enforcers. And even though we talk about the programmed and the elite in the capstone, and it's a small number, the small number exerts its control through every individual whose mind they have co-opted into their hive mind. So when I say elite, we do mean the top capstone level programmers, but we also mean your next door neighbor and every enforcer, every auto believer, every person who would get behind the idea of censorship in order to maintain the cohesion of a consensus delusion. Talmudoid 3 says space junk is going to clog up those holes. I could see that working. It sounds sciencey. It sounds about as sciencey as dinosaur bones on the moon, which they say is a fact. They say that the 6-mile wide space rock 66 million years ago that hit the Earth did so with such force and such velocity that it punctured a hole in the atmosphere. And like a super soaker, the Earth squeezed an ocean and a lot of biomatter into space, and a lot of it sprayed the moon. I imagine a lot of it is still in orbit. Like there's probably a T-Rex skull just waiting to puncture the ISS. Wheezy says, I think fossil fuels are infinite, everlasting, and the Earth actually replenishes oil over time. Why just dino bones? Should we call it caveman fuel too? Yeah, that's a good point. But the idea of it being dino juice or caveman fuel, yeah, that's kind of a misconception that they purposely put out there. Like the dinosaurs died to give us gasoline. That's what they call it in Mad Max. I'm watching Furiosa right now. Nothing new under the sun, says Lickety Split. Well, the scarcity model is fundamentally what we're talking about when we talk about peak oil. Like, I think they built into the model the idea that everything's running out, so we need a centralized authority to ration everything. And if you look at the green movement, it's built on what? Rationing a limited supply. And a lot of the programming is to put you in the end times. If you don't think we're in the end times, you don't believe the science. What are you, a flat earther? Like, you're supposed to believe it's the end times because of the climate change threat or planet killer asteroids or whatever it happens to be. But they reduce the amount of time as far as like your concept. Like, well, the world's going to end soon. So they want to truncate that. They want to control time and space. They control space by making you feel guilty about traveling, by putting barriers in the way, and possibly even hiding or distorting things so you think there's less than there actually is. And my contention is that the Earth may even be a ball, but if it is, nothing we have been shown from the space agencies represents what it really is. Like, we've still been given a false picture. So then it raises the question, what are they covering up? So it's a false model, whether or not its shape is round or anything else. I think that the real question shouldn't be flat versus round, but it should be open versus closed system. And I think that we are in a closed system. Like, you know, the media box. The media box includes everything except evidence of fakery, except certain facts they don't want you to think about. They omit. So the worldview that we share is largely a product of omission, things they've left out, that they leave out by design. Similarly, the physical world, or our perception of it, our concept of it, is a model that we've been given, and we have to trust them that they have not omitted anything. And do you trust them with the maps if you don't trust them with the news? And if you don't trust them with the news, why would you trust them with the history? And even before I figured out or learned about media fakery, I was already noting these conflicts between how the left and the right view their own parties, and their own parties is history when it comes to things like racism and slavery. Like, the Republicans say, oh, our party was created to free the slaves. So the Democrats are all slavery advocates. But then the Democrats say, well, no, there was the Southern strategy, and all the racists went to the other side. So it depends on who you believe. And each side accuses the other side. A lot of projection. Lickety Split says omission equals lie. I'm working on a book on the lie world order. I already have a few articles on this with that title. I have an ebook, but I want to expand it because lie world order is about the various forms of lies. Lies by omission are a huge part of it. Then there are different forms of liars, like unwitting liars, witting liars. So are you knowingly telling lies, or are you repeating something? And then, of course, you have logical fallacies and loaded questions and other things that cause people to unknowingly pass on things that are complete fabrications. Let's continue through my notes here. We have only about a few more moments here. I was trying to get in earlier, but tomorrow we will. We had that other live stream today. We covered some of the fakery regarding space. Now, I don't know if this is super relevant here, but Vivek Ramaswamy had said to this lady that if you want Trump to survive, vote for me. Kind of interesting. So there's a tweet from Ryan Routh, and he says, you cannot quit, you must stay on the ballot, basically saying don't let Trump win. And Ron says, the guy at Trump's golf course, the AR-15, wanted Vivek to stay in the race. And it reminded me that Vivek told this woman that someone was going to assassinate Trump if he was the nominee, so she should vote for him to save Trump's life. This is bizarre. Vivek is literally saying, if you don't want Trump to die, vote for me.
You do this, I'm going to do my part. Okay. I need your support on Monday night. You do this, I'm going to do my part.
Okay, you're picking at my shell. You are.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've got to
It's about this country. It's about this country. You want to save Trump, you vote for me.
You want to save Trump, you vote for me.
I'm telling you that. You vote for Trump. You're sending him.
You vote for Trump, you're sending him
But you're sending him to his own demise.
to his own demise.
You're falling into the trap that not only a country's falling into.
Yeah, that's pretty ominous. A little scary there. Probably nothing. But this character is definitely another Joker archetype. I'm waiting for more information on him. We're still looking. And one more thing, I didn't see this. I saw the movie Beetlejuice. But according to James Clark, there's a scene in Beetlejuice where the character that looks like Trump in a gold suit has a bullet wound in his right temple. And he's standing in line in the recently dead waiting room. So I do recall a corpse with Trump-like hair. And now that I think about it, I'll have to go watch it again and take a snapshot. I'm pretty sure that was Trump with a head wound in the new Beetlejuice movie. And this is relevant because Beetlejuice, green hair, Joker archetype, shooter, green hair. Well, he had yellow and blue, but again, it's fairly consistent. And so for the Beetlejuice movie to have a dead Trump, yeah, that's predictive programming. All right, let's move on. Now, one more thing. James Cameron is going to make a movie called Ghosts of Hiroshima, telling the atomic bomb story from the Japanese side. Cameron's fear of nuclear war featured in several iconic films, including The Terminator, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and it's been on his mind since he watched the Cuban Missile Crisis unfold when he was 8. There's a lot we could talk about here, but we mentioned James Cameron earlier. He was filming Ghosts in the Abyss on 9/11 at the site of the Titanic wreckage. So the fact that he's filming Ghosts of Hiroshima means that we're about to see something related to this theme, in my opinion. And he's been connected to 9/11 as much as Kubrick and several other directors we could mention. Messianic Charlatan says, most Bronx drill rappers are from that Twin Parks area. One even did a music video in front of the 333 Fire Building prior to the fascinating. Huge explosion in Russia, says, oh really, you don't say. Well, hopefully they got it in before 9/17 ended, because this was predicted in Leave the World Behind. If you can provide more information, I'll put a link out there. Just about out of time here. FMGR has gifted 5 memberships. Austin 108, Nick Fingar, Thrustazar, Tony Driscoll. You're receiving Blue Wrench Lodge memberships. So here we go. James Cameron, deep meta scripter. Oh, by the way, here's a video, or a snapshot from a video where they had the shooter arrested. And look at the fire engine in the back. ENG 33 in red. INE. Engine 33. Nothing to see here. Hillary Clinton suggests Americans should be arrested for posting misinformation. Says there needs to be a deterrence. So Hillary Clinton, according to Q, has been killed, replaced by a clone, and then the clone was killed. So this is like the 3rd or 4th Hillary Clinton, according to the Q people. Or it's the original one, and the Q people don't know what they're talking about. But here she says they need to start jailing Americans for posting misinformation.
Boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
All right, a better deterrent. Arrest them all. And you know what, honestly, arrest all the truthers, it wouldn't really bother me. It might make our job easier. And if you're going to be a propaganda mule at this point, you're a gullible stooge, and you almost deserve what you get at this point. It's almost like being provocateured by feds to fall into any of this stuff. All right, we talked about P. Diddy. We're waiting for him to get Epsteined. They caught the diddler. Very bad story. Probably worse than the Andrew Tate story. So Andrew Tate's probably really happy tonight because this is going to take the heat off of him, because Tate's bad, but this is, I mean, Tate's pretty bad. He's got these courses on how to start your own grooming gangs. But P. Diddy seems to be connected to a lot of people. And if you play the guilt by association game, this could conceivably turn into something much bigger, and he's not getting out on bail. We talked about the Hezbollah pagers blowing up, not that many. They made it seem like it was bigger than it was. O'Reilly says, 6-year Delta, Gitmo, trust the plan, blah, blah, blah. The military arrested her to save the Channel kids. Yeah, that's what I thought. I've always looked at her and I said, this is evidence that adrenochrome doesn't really work. Like, they drink adrenochrome. It keeps you young and strong forever. You're immortal. It's like, I don't really see it. Kind of seems like it's doing the opposite on a lot of these adrenochrome junkies. Not all that great for the skin. All right, everyone, thanks for the comments. We'll continue this tomorrow with open phones. This is Fepe Akbar featuring Lean Dion, Allergic to Bullshit. Archives will be sent out likely in the morning.
Fuck with your deception, keep it real, that's a profession. Like the whole world is pretending, found the truth around the penguin. Get a gang on with a blessing, all the other gang are stressing. RPSC on a nesting, only real one's gonna get this. Fake ones don't accept this, they can miss the message. Timbuktu got bodies, yeah, find them in our records. Auto host a message, squad are represented. Killing you with knowledge, yeah, the uppers getting dirty. Oh, you're so affected, cause we're so effective. Let go of your worries, yeah, the whole thing is a setup. We got it and we get it, offering refreshment. Level up your consciousness, honestly the essence. This wave is uncontainable, facts are undebatable. You lanes are unrelatable, give a fuck about saving you. We could keep on playing you, you just keep complaining too. Game is unescapable, unless you're with the gang or no. Messing with the penguin, we're messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin, 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 fucking with the penguins, yeah, with the penguins. I'm coming with a vengeance, trying to make you come to your senses. Forget the general consensus, just pay attention. Your book just has paid for good intentions. I'm clenching my back benching, representing only the most superior independent media. We got that real shit fucking encyclopedia. We're bringing an end to this mass hysteria. They wanna know why it's so serious, cause you must be delirious. If you're still believing stuff, get a grip and show some evidence for your bold claims. We don't play no games, we stay relentless, exposing those events. Quick, the IPS are making an entrance, busting doors down cause now's the time for interventions. Did I mention we're affecting so many men across the spectrum? We stand out from the crowd, we don't blend in. Steady gaining tremendous momentum, there's nothing close to resembling. Check the emblem, it's a penguin, not a gremlin. Just letting you know you're on an infinite plane, it's never bending. We strike like 10 pin, killing all fears and breaking the tension. Gotta know the hopes army, digging deep in the trenches. Come and join in, be adventurous. Quit being so sensitive, forget the censorship. We ain't telling fibs. Messing with the penguin, we're messing with the penguin, messing with the penguin.